Chapter 55 of The Plum in the Golden Vase. Chongzhen version of the embroidered portrait. Simon King celebrates his birthday twice, and Mao Yuan Yinyuo sends a singing boy to him. The word says, the teacher and his family meet each other, and they are like fish and water, monarchs and ministers, and they must always have little trust. The fortune is 1,000, the good times are 5, and the elders are born in Songyu. The emperor sent the Fuanzongsh, and people admired the Yongronglang temple. May we wish you longevity every year, and may your longevity be as high as the mountains. But he said that after medical officer Ren checked his pulse, he still went to the hall and sat down. Simon King then said, I wonder what the cause of this disease is. Medical officer Ren said, Madam, this disease is caused by careless postpartum treatment. Her eyes are dirty, her face is yellow, and her diet is not enough. It's important, and I feel tired when I move around. In my humble opinion, I should be careful and take care. The pulse in both hands of my wife is weak, but not real, and the symptoms are caused by inflammation of the liver and internal organs, deficiency of earth, and excessive wood, and excessive blood flow. If it is not cured now, it will not happen in the future. After saying this, Simon King said, What kind of medicine should I use now? Medical officer Ren said, I only use a medicine to clear fire and stop bleeding. Cortex, philodendron and anamarina. For the sake of you, I will add or subtract some of the rest. Just eat it and watch it, and it will be fine. After Simon King heard this, he asked the book boy to seal him a couple of silver coins and send it to medical officer Ren to make a medicine book. And then medical officer Ren thanked him. After a while, the medicine was delivered, and Li Pinger decocted it and took it in his room. Let us say that Simon King sent medical officer Ren off and came back to talk to Earl Ying. The Earl said, This morning, Li San and Huang Si came and said that he was in urgent need of money for this fragrant family and repeatedly asked me to come and beg him. At least, I will help him in this step. Simon King said, Since we are in such a hurry, I have no choice but to rely on you. Just ask him to come and redeem it tomorrow. At the same time, he asked the Earl to go to the small volume shed and leave him to eat. The Earl asked, Is Li Geyer still living here? It's time for him to go to Tokyo. Simon King said, Exactly. I am waiting to send him to Yangzhou. I'm afraid he will only arrive in the morning or evening. After that, let's have dinner and don't go, Earl. The next day, when he came back from Simon King Yemen, the Count was already sitting in the hall with Li Zi and Huang Si waiting. Seeing Simon King coming back, they all hurriedly came to see him. Simon King went in and changed his clothes, then asked Yunyang to take out the 250 taels of silver that the Zhu family had asked for, and added another 250 taels to it. He asked Chen Jingji to take it, and went to the hall to exchange it with Li Sen and Huang Si, because he said, I don't have any money, so because my second brother asked me again and again, I have to give it to you. But I want it. Li San said, I asked my father to help me. How dare I delay? Now that this batch of money is released, once I didn't dare to touch my cents, so I just sent them all over. So he cashed in the money and thanked him profusely. The Earl was about to leave, but was left behind by Simon King. As he was sitting talking, he saw Pingener come in and announce, Lai Bao is back from Tokyo. The Count said, I told you yesterday that it was time to come. After a while, Lai Bao came into the hall and knelt with Simon King. Simon King asked, Have you seen Father's eye? What's going on with Sister Li Gui? Lai Bao said, Young man, I met Father's eye in person. After Father's eye saw his book, he immediately asked the squad leader to take Tier and Lieutenant Zhu. He said that the younger one also followed, and Tai Wei Zhu personally said, Since they are all assigned to the Grand Master's mansion, they should be released because they were sent by Tai Wei Liu Wang and it is difficult to return them. If they are not here, they will be released. Forget it. If you have it, you will be detained for a while. He has a bad temper, but when he becomes more honest, he will be given a lighter sentence. Qi Xiang'er is also free of charge. This little slut is blessed. Lai Bo said, I wish I could only give him a few blows. He took out Butler's eye, hand over the book. Simon King looked at it and said, Old son and Chu Mazi never even dreamed of the favors I have here. The Earl said, Brother, you can only treat me as a sinner. Lai Bo added, Dads, I saw the young one. I was so happy to go and asked my father if he could go to celebrate his birthday with me tomorrow. The younger one said no, so he had to agree. I dare to come. Dad, I said. It doesn't matter if you come or not. I want to go with you. Dad will meet you for a while. Simon King said. I didn't plan to go there myself. Since I said that, I had to go for a walk. He told the bailiff, thank you for your hard work. Come and have some wine. Let's eat and have a rest. We'll have to rush to Yangzhou in a day or two. Come to Baoyangwu. Simon King was about to go in and talk to Sister Li Gui, and said to the Earl, sit down and I'll come. The Earl was also going to look for Li Sen and Huang Si, and took the opportunity to say, I'll go and come back later. They said goodbye, go. When Simon King came to Yunyang's room, Sister Li Gui already knew the letter and hurriedly came over to kowtow to Simon King and Yunyang, saying thanks. It's rare that my parents took the trouble to save me from this disaster. What can I do to repay my parents? Yunyang said, since you are having trouble in our house, there are some things that I don't want to deal with. So why are you here? Sister Gui said, I relied on my parents to save me, and I only had good luck with Qi Xiang'er. What does that little slut have to do with him? Even he was spared. His family was making money and it frightened us. So I just said a favor to him and shouldn't spare him. Simon King smiled and said, this little whore is really blessed. After saying this, Sister Guo was about to leave the house and said, my mother doesn't know about this letter yet. Let's go to my house and tell him. Remember, come and kowtow to your parents again. Simon King said, that's fine. I won't keep you. You go home and say goodbye. Yunyang said, Sister Gui, go and have dinner. Sister said, Mom, I don't want to eat anymore. At the same time, she said goodbye to Simon King and Yunyang. Before leaving, Simon King said, the matter is over. From now on, Wang Sangguan will not recruit him anymore. Sister Gui said, what did Dad say? He is still recruiting him. If you want to recruit him again. Just his body was rotten. Even the day before yesterday, I didn't recruit him. Yunyang said, I just didn't recruit him. What's the point of making an oath? She called for a sedan and sent Sister Gui away. Simon King told Yunyang that he was going to Tokyo. Yunyang said, since we are going, we need to prepare things early to avoid the rush. Simon King said, the embroidered python robes, golden flower treasures, and birthday gifts are all ready, but my luggage is not ready. Yunyang said, it doesn't matter about your luggage. After Simon King finished speaking, he went to the front to see Li Pinger. The next day, he sat in the scroll shed and called Chen Jingji. He looked at the book written by Kai Yeshi, handed it over to Lai Bao, and arranged for him to get up early tomorrow and rush to Yangzhou without mentioning it. A few days later, seeing that Grandmaster Kai's birthday was approaching, he had no choice but to choose an auspicious day and ordered the 4 boys, Qin Tong, Dian, Shatong, and Painting Boy, to follow him and pack their luggage. Yunyang, together with Yulu and Jinlian, packed a total of more than 20 loads of various gifts, crowns, clothes, and practical things. On the evening of the first day, the wives and concubines ranged wine and food to see Simon King off. After finishing the wine, we went to Yunyang's room to rest for the night. The next day, he sent out his 20-carry luggage first, and was given a passing horse tag. He passed by the post and handed it to his husband and horse to see him off. Everyone got ready, then went into Li Pinger's room, looked at Brother Guan, and said to Li Pinger, take good care of yourself. If you want medicine, ask someone to ask Dr. Ren for it. I will come home to see you soon. Li Pinger said with tears, be careful on the road. He was sent straight out of the hall and sent out of the door together with Yunyang, Yulu and Jinlian. Simon King rode in a sedan chair, and 4 young men rode in tuku, looking forward to Tokyo. During the meandering journey, I had to climb Zemo in the morning and stay at the post office at night. I saw some beautiful mountains and rivers along the way. All I met were civil and military officials from all walks of life who came to Beijing to celebrate their birthdays. There were countless birthdays. We made an appointment for about 10 days and arrived in Tokyo early. After entering the Wanshu City Gate, it was getting late, so I rushed to the foot of the archway on Long Street and went to Jai's house to stay. When Butler's eye heard that Simon King had arrived, he hurriedly came out to greet him and exchange greetings with each other. After having tea, Simon King asked Diane to hand over the luggage one by one to Jai's house. After Jin handed over the money to the government, he set out wine and washed the dust with Simon King. After a while, I saw the rare delicacies placed on the rhinoceros officials' table except for dragon liver and phoenix marrow. Everything else was available, even if Taishikai used it for his own use. It was no more than that. The man on duty brought the wine. Jin poured it into the sky first, and then held it with Simon King. Simon King returned the favor. The two of them sat down, with candies and wine poured out, and water seemed to be flowing. After drinking for 2 rounds, Simon King said to Jin, "Students are here just to celebrate the birthday of the old master, and to prepare some small gifts to show filial piety to the Grand Master. But I can't think of giving up. It's just that the student has always had a high heart and wants to ask his in-laws to come before him. Report, if you can become a disciple of the Grand Master, your life will not be in vain. I wonder if you can speak up?" Jin said, "What's so difficult about this? Although our master is a court minister, he is also very flattering. After seeing such a grand ceremony today, I will not only accept the offer of being a disciple, but also be promoted to an official title." Simon King was overjoyed when he heard that. After drinking enough, Simon King stopped drinking. Butler Zai said, "Please give me another drink. Why don't you eat?" Simon King said, "I have serious business tomorrow, so I don't dare to drink more." After trying to persuade him, he only had another drink. Butler Zai rewarded his entourage with wine and food, and then invited Simon King to rest in the study at the back. The warm bed is lined up with silk curtains, silver hooks and brocade quilts, and the fragrance is delicious. A group of boys help Simon King undress and get into bed. Sleeping Simon King was not used to it in his life, so it was very difficult to survive that night. At dawn, when I was about to get up, the door of the Zai family was heavily covered. It wasn't until the time of signing that someone opened the key together and took it out. Then the boy came into the study with a handkerchief and fragrant soup. After Simon King finished washing up, Butler Zai came out to meet Simon King and sat down. The man on duty brought out a scarlet box with about 30 delicacies in it, and poured wine from a silver jug for breakfast. Jin said, "Please have breakfast. The students will go to the mansion first to tell the master, and then the relatives will bring the gifts in." Simon King said, "Thank you for your trouble." After a few drinks, he took breakfast and left home. Live, Butler Zai said, "Please sit down for a moment, and the students will come as soon as they enter the house." Not long after Jin left, he hurriedly came home and said to Simon King, "The master is washing his clothes in the study. Outside, there are many civil and military officials waiting to pay their respects to him, so we haven't seen each other. The student has already told the master, so let's go in and say congratulations first. The province is home to a mixed crowd. The students will go to wait for you first, and then the relatives will come. After that, we went." Simon King was very happy. He then asked his followers to recruit a few companions from the Zai family, and first carried the 20 loads of gold and silver satin to the Grand Master's residence, and the group went there in response. Simon King came in a sedan chair with his crown on his head. I saw a commotion and people rubbing shoulders with officials, big and small, who came to celebrate their birthdays. Simon King saw an official coming into Longdafeng in a sedan chair from a distance. Simon King took a closer look and recognized him as his old friend Yangzhou Mao Yuanwei. Unexpectedly, the Mao member also saw Simon King outside. They got off the sedan and bowed to each other, talking about the cold weather. It turned out that this Mao member was also a wealthy man, and he was currently working as a casual official. He had always been acquainted with Taishikai. At that time, he came to celebrate his birthday and met an old friend. At that moment, the two hurriedly exchanged a few words, asked about their apartment, and parted ways. Simon King came to the Taishi mansion and saw the hall is open and the fields are green, and the smoke rises from the pavilion. The front door is wide enough for a revolving horse, and the gate is tall enough to erect a flag. Among the brocades, the wind carries the sweet sound of thrushes. Among the piles of gold and silver, the sun reflects the fragrance of beautiful trees and flowers. The living screens on the left and right are illuminated by the red light of Yi Guang. The hall is full of dead treasures, pieces of Zhou, Ding, Sheng and Yi. There are 12 pearls hanging in the room. Why use lamp oil in the dark night? There are 3,000 pearls and shoes on the door. And all the famous people are there during the day. Officials, big and small, from all over the country came to celebrate. The 6 ministers and the governors of the 3 sides all bowed their heads. It's exactly this. Apart from the emperor, who was noble for 10,000 years, only the prime minister of the current dynasty is noble. Simon King Gong entered the gate, followed by Butler Zai. He saw that the middle gate was closed and the officials entered through the corner gate. Simon King then asked, "Why is it that today's big event is happening, but the middle gate is not open?" Guanzai said, "The middle gate used to be a lucky place for officials, so people didn't dare to leave." Simon King and Jin entered several gates, and there were all military attaches on the door. Guard. Some people are not confused. When they saw Jin, they all leaned forward and asked the steward, "Where are you from?" Butler Zai replied, "I left my family and came to Shandong to pay homage to the master." After that, he walked through a few more doors and turned a few corners. Nothing more. They are painted pillars and carved beams with golden zhangjiati. I could faintly hear the sound of drums, as if they were in heaven. Simon King asked again, "The houses here are isolated. Where can the loud drum music come from?" Guanzai said, "This is a female musician taught by the master. There are 24 people in a class, and they all know the devil dance, neon dress dance, and Guanyin dance. But everyone the master played for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Now I think it's breakfast." Simon King felt the fragrance in his nose before he heard the music, and the sound of music came closer. Butler Zai said, "This is close to the master's study. Please relax." After turning round the corridor, he saw a hall that looked like a palace. There were cranes, peacocks and other rare birds in front of the hall, as well as white jade flowers, night-blooming cereus and mulberry flowers, which never faded and were so bright and beautiful that he was overwhelmed. Simon King did not dare to enter, so he asked housekeeper Zai to go in first, and then walked to the front of the hall one by one. He saw a man in a scarlet python robe sitting on a tiger skin chair in the hall. It was the Grand Tutor. Behind the screen were 20 or 30 beauties, all dressed in palace-style clothes, holding towels and fans, hugging him. Housekeeper Zai also stood aside. Simon King bowed 4 times, and Grand Tutor Kai also stood up and returned the greeting on the velvet sheet. This was their first meeting. Afterwards, housekeeper Zai approached Grand Tutor Kai's ear and whispered a few words to him. Simon King understood what he said, and bowed 4 times again, but Grand Tutor Kai did not return the greeting. These 4 bows were to acknowledge him as his godfather, so he accepted them. Simon King addressed him as his father and son, saying, "I'm not that filial to you. Today is your birthday, so I have prepared some gifts to show my gratitude. I wish you a long life." Taishi Kai said, "How can I bear this?" and asked him to sit down. The person on duty brought a chair up, and Simon King bowed and said, "Please sit down." Then he sat down on the west side and drank tea. Steward Zai hurried out and asked the bearers of gifts to come in. In a moment, 20 loads of gifts were placed at the bottom of the steps. He opened the lid of the cooler and presented a list of gifts: a set of bright red python robes, a set of official green dragon robes, 20 pieces of Han brocade, 20 pieces of Shu brocade, 20 pieces of fire-washed cloth, 20 pieces of Western cloth, and the rest of the floral and plain cloth totaling 40 pieces, a lion-shaped jade belt, a golden-laid strange southern incense belt, 10 pairs of jade cups and rhinoceros cups, 8 red gold-flowered cups, 10 pearls, and 200 taels of gold as a gift to Taishi Kai. When Master Kai saw the etiquette and saw that there were more than 20 pieces of cloth, he was very happy. He said thank you, and asked Steward Zai to take them to the storeroom. At the same time, he ordered wine to be served. Seeing that he was in a hurry, Simon King stood up to say goodbye to Master Kai. The master said, "In that case, come early in the afternoon." Simon King bowed again and stood up to leave. Master Kai walked a few steps with him and then stopped. Simon King and Steward Zai went out of the house again. Steward Zai had something to do in the house, so he said goodbye and went in. Simon King actually returned to Zai's house, took off his hat and belt, and had lunch. He returned to the study and took a nap. It happened that Master Kai sent a servant to invite him to the banquet. Simon King thanked him for some fan gold and left first. He immediately put on his hat and belt again, and asked Diane to seal many rewards and put them in a box. He followed for servants and took a sedan chair to the master's house again. On that day, all the civil and military officials of the court came to celebrate with Kai Taishi, and they were invited to drink. Starting from the next day, it was divided into 3 parts. The first day was for the emperor's relatives and ministers, the second day was for the ministers and officials of the government, and the third day was for the officials of all ranks inside and outside the court. Only Simon King came from afar, and secondly, he brought many gifts, so Kai Taishi was very happy. So he invited him alone on the day. Seeing Simon King coming, he hurried out to greet him. Simon King was very humble and said, "Grandpa, go first." He bent his back and stepped lightly into the threshold. Kai Taishi said, "You have come from afar, and it is also a disgrace to this ceremony. Today, I will sit for a while and show my gratitude." Simon King said, "My son lives on the throne and walks on the earth. All thanks to the great blessing of Grandpa. It's nothing to worry about, a little respect." The two of them laughed and chatted, just like father and son. 24 beauties played music together, and the officials on duty in the palace poured wine. Master Kai wanted to drink with Simon King, but Simon King refused. He only took 1 cup and drank it all at once, then sat down at the table. Simon King asked the servant to take a golden peach cup, filled it, walked to Master Kai's table, knelt down and said, "May Grandpa live 1,000 years." Master Kai said with joy, "Child, get up." He took it and drank it all. Simon King got up and sat down again. At that time, the banquet in the Prime Minister's mansion was full of treasures. There is no need to talk about it. Simon King drank until dusk, took out the reward and rewarded the servants, and then thanked and said, "Goodbye, Grandpa is busy. The child is here to thank you, and I dare not come to see you again in the future." After leaving the mansion, he went to Jai's house to rest. The next day, he wanted to pay a visit to Mr. Mao, and asked Diane to follow him for a day, but he stayed in the room of Eunuch Li behind the imperial city. Diane took the invitation and reported it. Mao Yuanwei came out to greet him and said, "I was looking for a close friend to talk to, and I just happened to come at the right time." He invited Simon King to a banquet. Simon King could not refuse, so he had to stay. There were countless delicacies and delicacies. There were also 2 singing boys, who were handsome and sang a few songs. Simon King pointed at Diane and the zither boy and said to Mao Yuanwei, "These fools can only eat and drink. How can they compare with those 2? Mao Yuanwei smiled and said, "I'm afraid I can't serve you, old sir. If you like, it's not difficult to serve you." Simon King declined modestly and didn't dare to take away someone else's good fortune. After drinking until late, he said goodbye to Mao Yuanwei and went to Jai's house to rest. During those days, the managers of the Prime Minister's mansion invited each other to drink, and stayed for 8 or 9 days. Simon King was eager to go home, so he asked Diane to pack his luggage. Managers, I tried very hard to keep her, so she had to drink for another night, reminiscing about her in-laws, and was extremely attached to them. The next day, she got up early to say goodbye and headed for Shandong. They stayed by the river and had a good meal along the way. Let's talk about Yu Niang's family. Since Simon King went to Tokyo to celebrate his birthday, the sisters have been looking at him eagerly, doing needlework in their rooms, and not coming out to play. Only Pan Jinlian dressed up like a flower, and acted like a fool. She was among the maids, playing guessing and wiping cards, talking and laughing. And she was crazy. She laughed, and didn't care about who saw her. She only wanted to hook up with Chen Jingji. Every day, she just wandered around in the snow cave in the garden, hoping for a chance encounter. Jingji also thought about his wife, and would come in from time to time to look for her. When he saw no one, he would tease her, kiss her and make love, but he regretted that there were too many people and too many eyes, and he couldn't enjoy himself. It is just like this. Although I didn't enter the Wushan dream, I met the Luoshui god. One day, Wu Yunyang, Meng Yulu and Li Pinger were sitting together. Diane ran in hurriedly. He kowtowed to Yunyang and reported, "Dad is back." Yunyang asked, "Where is he now?" Diane said, "I rode in front of everyone with a horse license, so I got home first. Dad must be about 20 miles away at this time. Yoon asked. Have you eaten yet? Diane said. I have eaten since morning, but not lunch. Yoon ordered the meal to be served and went to the hall with the 6 sisters to greet him. It is just like this. The poet is old, but Ying is still here. When the young master returns, Yan is busy. The wives and concubines waited in the hall for a long time, and Simon King finally got off the sedan chair in front of the door. And the wives and concubines went in together to greet him. Simon King met Yoon first, and then met Meng Yulu, Li Pinger and Pan Jinlian in turn, and exchanged greetings. Afterwards, the book boy, the zither boy, and the painting boy also came to kowtow and went to the kitchen to eat. Simon King told him in detail about the hard journey, how he stayed at Jai's house, how he felt grateful to Master Kai for inviting him to drink, and how he drank with the Prime Minister every day. He asked Li Pinger, how is the child these days? Is the medicine you took from Dr. Ren working? Although I'm going to Tokyo, I'm worried about my family. Li Pinger said, the child is fine. I feel a little better after taking the medicine. Yu Niang packed up the luggage and the gifts sent by Master Kai while cooking for Simon King. In the evening, she set up wine to welcome Simon King. Simon King rested in Yu Niang's room in the evening. The two were like meeting old friends in a foreign land after a long drought. There is no need to talk about their love. The next day, Chen Jingji and the eldest sister also came to see him and talked about the accounts of the store. Ying Boju and Chang Jiji came to visit the family they had inquired about. After Simon King came out to meet them, the two said together, brother, you have worked hard on the journey. Simon King then told them in detail about the splendor of Tokyo and the kindness of the Grand Tutor. The two were just envious. That day, Simon King invited the two to drink for a day. Before getting up, Chang Jiji said to Simon King, I have something to ask of you. I wonder if you can take care of it. As he spoke, he just lowered his head and said half-heartedly. Simon King said, just tell me. Chang Jiji said, it's really because the house I live in is not convenient. I want to find a house to settle down, but I don't have money, so I ask you to help me a little. I will definitely pay you back with some interest in the future. Simon King said, what's the point of talking about interest when we are getting along? I'm busy now. How can I ask for money? Wait until Han's cargo ship comes home, and there will be a way. After that, Chang Jiji and Ying Boju thanked him and laughed. Needless to say, let's talk about Mao Yuanwei meeting Simon King and promising the two singing boys at the banquet. Unexpectedly, Simon King was eager to return home and came back without saying goodbye. Mr. Mao thought that Simon King was in Beijing, so he sent his servant to Jai's house to ask, and then he knew that Simon King had gone home. Mr. Mao thought to himself, a gentleman's word is as good as a whip to a fast horse. Since I promised him, how can I break my promise? So he called his singing boys and told them, the other day I invited the great official Simon from Shandong, and I promised you two to him. I am going to send you to his house now, so you should pack your bags early. The two singing boys knelt down and said, we have served you for many years. You have spent so much effort to teach us these southern songs, but you didn't keep them for your own enjoyment. How can you give them to others? After saying this, tears fell down. The official also felt miserable and said, you are right. Why should we send someone off? It's just that, if a man does not have faith, I don't know what he can do. How can we go against what Confucius said? Now it is not up to you. Let me write a letter and send someone to send you off. Let him take good care of you. The two singing boys could not resist and had to agree. The official Mao asked the doorman to write a letter to express his intention to send the singing boys off. He also wrote a gift list, sealed some handkerchiefs, and sent the servant Mao Shi to carry the letter and escort the two singing boys to Simon King's house. The two singing boys thanked the official with tears, got on their horses, and headed towards Shandong Avenue. One day when they arrived in King County, the three of them dismounted to visit and went straight to Simon King's house at the County Memorial Archway. Since Simon King came home from Tokyo, he has been busy every day, giving gifts, inviting people to drink, and visiting friends every day, so he has never been to the government office. That day, he had a little free time, so he went to the government office to sign in, and interrogated the prisoners one by one with Jia Tixing. After half a day of interrogation, He finished his work and took a sedan chair. Several jailers shouted and escorted him home. Mao Shi and the singing boys had been waiting for a long time. They followed Simon King's sedan chair and went to the front hall. They knelt down and said, "I'm Mao Yuanwei from Yangzhou. I have a letter to pay my respects to you." Then he presented the letter and the gift. Simon King hurriedly said, "Please stand up." He opened the second letter and read it carefully. Seeing that it was a singing boy sent to him, he was overjoyed and said, "I met you unexpectedly, and I didn't expect that you would have a good relationship with me. After a drink, you really gave me a gift, and you didn't hesitate to send it thousands of miles away. You really promised me. It's rare, rare." The two singing boys walked over again, kowtowed 4 times, and said, "Your Excellency asked us to serve you, and we beg you to look favorably upon us." Simon King said, "If you get up, I will naturally use you." On the one hand, he ordered wine and food to be served to Mao Shi and the two singing boys. On the other hand, he prepared a generous gift, silk and silk, and a letter to thank you. On the other hand, he asked the two singing boys to serve in the study. Unexpectedly, Han Daoguo's wife Wang Lior, seeing that Simon King was busy and wanted to communicate frequently, and no one was in contact, planned to send her brother Wang Jing, only 15 or 16 years old, also handsome, to serve Simon King. And Simon King accepted him as usual and asked him to serve in the study. Simon King was distributing things in the hall when the Earl suddenly came. Simon King told him that he knew about the singing boy sent by Mr. Mao, so he asked Diane to get some wine and food, and asked him to sit down. He then asked the singing boys to sing southern songs. The two singing boys approached the table, stood side by side, held sandalwood boards in their hands, and sang a set of new water song The Small Garden released Jing Mai last night. It was really so loud that it stopped the moving clouds and turned into white snow. The Earl was so happy when he heard it, and praised him, "Brother, you are so lucky to have these wonderful people sent to you. It's hard for Mr. Mao to be so kind." Simon King said, "I have to find a generous gift to repay him." At the same time, he gave the singing boy 2 names, one is Chen Heng and the other is Chen Yan. He asked him to sing a few little lyrics, and the two drank a round of wine before the Earl left. It is exactly, "The wind and flowers play with shadows, and the new orioles sing." All of them are singers and dancers in front of the banquet.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.